I'll give you an example of a double-edged question I asked in my Google Cloud interviews with Bryce Buffalo in my Googliness interview. Keep in mind, it's cheesy, but it was Googliness, looking for culture fit. And at Google, they say bring your full self to work.
My name's Chris Bussin, and I'm glad you're here.
Are you ready for your next six-figure career? Then lend me your ear. I'll make one thing clear. You'll be pulling big racks in the span of a year. Yes.
That's bussin'.
That's bussin'.
My name's Chris Bussin. That's always stuck in my head.
Dun, 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 dun.
Tech sales is bussin'.
That's bussin'.
My name is Jay Johnston, and I am the host of the Chris Bussing podcast today. And boy, do I have a guest for you. One of my best friends here in Austin, Texas. We met, I believe, 2 or 3 years ago, and it has been an amazing friendship. And there is no one else I would want to interview today. And it is so serendipitous after sitting on the other side just a few months ago. And so today, we're going to switch it up. And I am going to be interviewing Chris Bussing, and we're going to get to know who the real Chris Bussing is. So what I want to dive into is I know Chris very well, and I see all of his polished YouTube videos. I see everything he posts on LinkedIn. But what I want to do is I want to learn who the real Chris Bussing is, and I want the audience to know who the real Chris Bussing is as well. And so, Chris, I want to kick it off with where are you from? And what has put you in a position to be sitting across from me today?
So, Jay, first of all, it's such an honor to be interviewed by one of my best friends and someone I really admire and look up to personally and professionally. So thank you for that. Now, I am a Florida man, so watch out. I'm from Naples, Florida, where people clap for the sun setting in the Gulf of Mexico. It's an older population. It's the type of place where a young person wants to go anywhere else to see the world and really experience a little more diversity. And so that's what I did. I ended up going to DC. I was very blessed to go to Georgetown University. I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain, which is amazing. I learned some Spanish, hablo español. And then I cut my teeth in sales at Oracle in Boston. Boston was a love-hate. People were tough. You got massholes, but they're loyal people. It's a smart city. It's a great city. I grew a lot, particularly being at Oracle and just getting started in tech sales. Then I joined Google Cloud in Austin, where millennials are merry. Talk about a great place to be, isn't it? It's an amazing community. I got a promotion at Google Cloud to go into field sales at 26, which I was really proud of. It took me to LA, and then this pandemic thing happened, and I got super depressed, rethought my life, and left Google, which I never expected to do, and joined a startup, Bespin, where I'm at today. And in that whole process, started a YouTube channel. I have to say, Jay, I'm here because of some important people in my life. It starts with my mom, one of my greatest inspirations. She couldn't have kids for 11 years. Eventually, because of her faith and persistence, never giving up, and just her commitment to having a kid, I popped out eventually after 11 years, shocked the world. I was somewhat of a miracle baby, at least to my mom, of course. And that just, even the fact that she persisted for 11 years. She actually had stillborn twins in the process, which must have been so devastating. It's just inspiring to me. Also, when I was in high school, I remember very vividly when my dad sat me down at the kitchen counter. I don't know if it was I think it was junior year, and he said, "Your mom has breast cancer." I was so terrified at the time, but what's amazing is my mom beat an aggressive stage of breast cancer, and now she's 71 and vibrantly healthy. So talk about resilient. She inspired my college admission essay that I wrote to get into Georgetown. And she always believed in me and saw my potential more than what I saw myself. She demanded the best from me. She went to my elementary school and told the faculty my son should be tested for the gifted program. And that's like an accelerated track where you get in special classes, and it has a really positive impact on your trajectory in school. And so she got them to give me the opportunity to take the test, and I miserably failed. In fact, I gave up in the middle of it. I couldn't focus, and my mom insisted, give him another shot. And they did, and I passed. And that's just one of many examples of how she fought for my potential and believed in me more than I believed in myself. So I'm a mama's boy. I love you, Mom, as I call her, Moo Cow. You're the best. So don't get me started about my dad, right? My dad is the reason I love sales. He loves people. He was the #1 timeshare salesman in the country, selling timeshare in Marco Island, selling something that, people didn't need. And you probably heard jokes about selling timeshare. And he ended up working at a golf club called Naples National that's very exclusive. It cost $200,000 to join that golf club. And my dad didn't run the whole business or the golf club, but he is a food and beverage locker room attendant. And he's done things like shine shoes, fold towels, like in a way be a servant to these guests. But he has gone so above and beyond over like my whole life, like 30 years, to serve these guests and put their needs before my own, that he created these personal walking ambassadors that are multimillionaires and billionaires that literally want him to win in life and want his family to win. So we've had these life experiences like going to Green Bay Packer games in Lambeau. He's helped my cousin get a internship with a top company or the New Orleans Saints. If you need a top specialized doctor, he has someone in his network. It's just amazing how when you give to others, it comes back to you and you develop these personal walking ambassadors as a part of your network. So he taught me that. My sister, she was adopted from Russia. The first thing I said as a spoiled only child is either put her in the garbage can or send her back to Russia to my parents. Can you believe that? Kira, I'm so sorry. She put up with my BS. She is so grounded and loving, and she's taught me the power of unconditional love, and we're super close now. And she supported me through my lowest of lows in just my life. So Kira's amazing. My family's amazing. There are some other people, though, that shaped my career and trajectory in life. The next person I want to call out is Chris Wing. Shout out to Chris Wing. He was my roommate in college at Georgetown. He's the one who told me one Saturday when I was hungover, wanting to lay in bed, to go to a career fair where I ended up shaking hands with a recruiter from Oracle named Sean that shook up my future. Right? So thanks to Chris giving me that nudge as a great friend, I got into tech sales. Then we have Jarrell. Shout out to Jarrell, my first SDR manager at Oracle. I remember he sat me down and said, Chris, how does it feel to be last? I was on a great team. Everyone was at over 100% of their number, but I was technically last. And I was so pissed at Jarrell. I'm like, I don't even care about tech sales. Like, I was so early. I was like, not even passionate about this, which is hilarious now since it's like all I do is help people get into tech sales and evangelize the path. But he knew that's what I needed as a competitive person. And I actually rose to the occasion and became like one of the top SDRs and ended up getting promoted to a great AE position. Shout out to Jarrell. A couple more people, right? Because all of my success is really tied to people at the end of the day. And I believe that. My first manager at Google, Mark Hall, took a shot on me. He got me in the door and he said, Chris, I think you should start a YouTube channel. I mean, the rest is history. Thank you, Mark. And most recently, there's 3 more people I'm going to call out. Some of my mentors in Austin, Tom Singer, a professional speaker of 20 years that's showing me the path to be a speaker, which is a dream of mine. He's encouraged me to be consistent on YouTube. He said, Chris, in order to get 1,000 subscribers, it's not going to happen overnight. You need 150 plus videos. He was right. I think I hit it around there. He's just grounds me on what it takes to be successful in that domain. And then Dean Zarilla, who I don't know if you met Dean and you've met Tom before too. Dean has founded 3 companies and he's just a seller at heart, a community builder, and he just shows me what's possible and has encouraged me on this path. And finally, you, my friend, you have played such a key part in my growth. You demand the best from me and you inspire me, as I said, to start this interview. So thank you for that. And just for your generosity to lift people up and you interviewing me as an example. Final thing in terms of how I got here, right? Not just the people in my life, but the challenges that have shaped me. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but back when I started at Oracle, I became a one-legged pirate. What I mean by that is I actually had a life-threatening health issue that led me to face my own mortality. I won't get into details, but it was freaking scary because up until that point, I thought I was pretty invincible. 2 weeks later, I'm at a bar in Boston. A bouncer is wrestling a guy to the left of me and throws him into a door, shatters the glass, the metal hydraulics snap, and a piece of metal flies right into my right eye. And it's permanently damaged. Like, you're blurry right now. I became a one-legged pirate. I became angry, It was physically and emotionally painful for a long time. But I was able to turn that challenge into passion and motivation and put it into my job as an SDR. And it actually fueled me to get promoted to AE, which then set me on a path to go to Google. And it just changed my freaking life. So I really believe problems are opportunities, right? And if we can find the motivation and the growth in it. And there were two other key, challenges that really, shaped me. Another one was falling into a depression in the pandemic. I'm an extrovert. It's probably not a surprise that I got super depressed, but the depression led me to rethink my life. Did I really want to stay at Google in California? And it led me to leave Google to go to startup, which has been the most rewarding part of my career yet. And it led to my YouTube channel too. It opened up the space to discover that and focus on it. And the final challenge that shaped me was, I've had my challenges with drinking. Long story short, I got some bumps and bruises along the way. I got knocked on my ass. I gave it up. And the freedom that's ensued and the path that's opened up has been incredible. So I know for a fact that life is like a tapestry. On the back, it's chaotic and full of knots. But without those knots, you don't get the beautiful image on the front. Those are some of my knots. All right, I'm done.
Wow. That was an awesome answer. Yeah, no, I appreciate you going into detail. And I think there's so many things about you not a lot of people know. Like even for myself, for those who aren't aware, I worked at Dell EMC my entire corporate career. So I think I had 6 months of being unemployed, broke into Dell EMC as an SDR, advanced 4 roles in 2.5 years. And there was one moment at age 24 where I found myself managing a team of AEs selling on-premise storage. And I actually recruited Chris as a cloud seller to come into our team meeting and actually train us how to position against the cloud. And that just goes to show the giving mindset you have and the abundance mentality. And I know everyone you come in contact with, all the people you've helped get jobs at Snowflake and so many other companies all feel the same. So that is, just so awesome. All those people have supported you in all those events. And from a friendship level, I think you're really unique. You graduated from Georgetown, like you said, you're bilingual and you have a plethora of talents not a lot of people see. And so what I'm curious about is what's one unique thing about you that not a lot of people know?
That's a great question. And by the way, it was hilarious when you brought me in to talk about selling against the cloud when I was a cloud seller. And my director of sales at my company is like, what the hell are you doing? I let him know I was doing it. He's like, dude, he was pissed. And so, yeah, one thing people might not know about me is just my passion for fitness. It goes back to college even before that in high school where I played baseball. And I didn't end up playing baseball in college, but I channeled that into the gym. And in particular, when I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain for what they said called un cuatrimestre, like a semester, as they call it. I forget how many months how long is a semester? It's been a while, 4 months or something. Mm-hmm. Anyways, in that time, I taught myself in Madrid body weight calisthenics. Mm-hmm. I taught myself to do 3 clap push-ups. So clap in front, behind my back, and in front, catch myself. It took me months to do it and falling on my face. But the moment that I did it for the first time, I experienced transformation. I literally did something I never could do before. I unlocked a growth mindset. I also taught myself to do muscle ups over the bar. And that first time I got over the bar was absolutely transformative. I taught myself 1-arm clapping push-ups. Dude, walking on my hands. The beauty of the gym and physical transformation is that when you experience it, you unlock, again, that mindset and you unlock growth that can transfer into your career and other areas of your life. And I think that finding progress in the gym like that, doing bodyweight calisthenics, it gave me confidence and it really did play a huge role for me, even in terms of my mental and emotional well-being. And I love to stretch myself. And the final thing I'd say on this one is that I think the joy and meaning that sustains human beings is found in the upward aim, and it's found in growth. That's where the good stuff is, not in the destination. destination. I can talk.
No, that I remember being shocked by that because there's that one time where we went to an Austin FC game. You had that beautiful date lined up, and like she had those other plans, and you're like, hey Jay, like let's have a bro date. And I remember we went and we took a photo. And we looked at that photo like 3 months later, and you're like, yeah, like I was a little pudgy.
Oh, dude,
and
I was out of weight. That was like the worst shape
that was
I was
like,
ever in.
yeah, that was like the worst photo. And then you're like, yeah, like I used to have a 6-pack in college. Like, I wonder if we can like show that on the screen or link it in the comments
probably
or something.
could. And hey, I let myself go in with success. The rent is always due.
Yeah,
I got comfortable. Now I got back.
But it was like the craziest thing. Like I remember being like looking at that photo and then like seeing the pictures of you in college, like with your 6-pack and everything. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this guy is an animal. Like he is so talented. And you've been crushing it at the gym lately. I've seen you, so
yeah.
keep
And everyone knows I love the ice bath. And if anyone saw the cold call tips from a cold plunge, I thought I was going to be famous. I thought I was a genius, but didn't quite blow up. But friggin' love those ice baths.
Yeah, it was good experimental marketing
For sure.
Yeah,
You got to take creative risks in life, right?
You do, and you definitely have. So you have taken big risks. You've worked at some of the largest companies in the world. Including Oracle, Google Cloud. You've won awards. You've closed $10 million deals. You've even enrolled public figures like Brene Brown to come speak to your team at Google. And being a founding member of a global startup that might go public in the coming years. There is a large list of accolades, but for you, Chris, like what is your proudest accolade and why is that so important to you?
So back when I was at Google, we were third in the market behind AWS, who invented the cloud infrastructure space with EC2 and, compute and S3 for, storage. And Microsoft was number 2. And the reality is selling at Google Cloud is a hunting role. It's not easy. And I wanted to crack the code to breaking into greenfields, companies that are ingrained on the competition. They're on AWS and Azure. That's really hard to do, and get a busy executive's attention, open up opportunities, and obviously drive deals. And I spent a lot of time, reading books like New Sales Simplified by Mike Weinberg, who you've met. We've both met.
Yeah.
Amazing book, right, on outbound and being a true sales hunter. And I got on the bike and rode and learned through doing, meaning I picked up the phone probably more than my peers. I was smiling and dialing. I was getting creative with my outbound approaches, and I did crack the code, and I ended up winning the Power Hour Award, as they called it at the time, for the West Coast division. I was the best at getting in the door and opening up conversations and sales development. And it actually, in that process, led to a $10 million deal with OfferUp that started with my first cold call at Google Cloud, where we moved them off of AWS. And so that was a feather in my cap, and not just that deal, but just getting really good at that process of like breaking into greenfields ingrained on the competition. What I did is I took looked at like real world emails and the data of like what worked, and I collected actual emails that worked and responses from executives and put it into a presentation with funny memes called Breaking into Greenfields Like a Boss. And so yeah, I went above and beyond to like bring it all together, and that was very gratifying to distill the insights, make it engaging, and share it with the broader sales org. And the presentation was shared with SDRs, but also field sellers and even channel partners who co-sell with Google Cloud. So I felt like I was making an impact, and I used my that award and that presentation as my lever to get promoted to field sales at 26. And so me along with like one other person were like the youngest field sellers, I think, overall at Google Cloud. Maybe there could have been someone a little younger, but I was just so proud of that. I wanted to like at a specific goal to get to field sales at 26, and that was a part of it. And the final thing I'll say is in the presentation, there were certain principles that I came up with that, help you create delectable cold emails that get busy executives to want to bite, and take the meeting. Number 1, relate like a rock star. Dave, I noticed you're in Boston. I actually used to live in Davis Square for 3 years. Like it's, relating, common, you lived in a common area. Tim, I noticed that one of your core values is transparency and communication. That's really important to us at Google Cloud, and we want to build a partnership founded on that. like, relating to different things, like either on a personal level or organizationally. Relate like a rock star. Number 2, channel your inner hostage negotiator. You probably heard of Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference, but the way to influence hostage negotiators who are completely irrational and difficult to negotiate is through extreme empathy, showing them that you care and you're curious about their world and that you get their world. And so that just translates to things like, reading. I saw the latest news. You launched this new product and you're investing heavily in your Mind Innovation Lab. We help similar companies like you that are going through that type of investment and growth to solve XYZ challenges, and so like being very relevant and empathetic and showing that thoughtfulness. The third ingredient was give to get, just being generous, offering ideas and insights that can help a business improve. Executives eat that up and love that. Offering access to a technical expert and trusted advisor that could share those insights. Offering free tickets to like Google Cloud Next, which was a big conference at Google. And that's like giving value. The tickets are like $1,000 and all the experiences and connections that come with it. So give to get is like, how can you also throw in generosity? You can't always do that and hang your hat on it, but it's just a principle that I found worked for me. And if you're at a big brand, like you have more flexibility to do that. 2 more things, we're almost done. Throw in your special sauce. Throwing in a little bit of personality and authenticity. And at Google, we called it Googliness. I love that. They celebrated being authentic. So when I cold emailed the CMO of Sur La Table, I mentioned, and she's CMO, so she cares about customers' experience of the products. I mentioned how my mom bought me a macaroon making class and I didn't want to go, but I did, had the greatest time. And I ended up on the T, which is a Subway in Boston, sharing macaroons with strangers, all smiling, arm in arm. I don't know if we were actually arm in arm, but throwing special sauce was one. And then the final thing is like always be asking. This is common sense and not that complicated, but end with like a interest-based ask or an ask for time. So that was a proud accomplishment, man. And as you can tell, I nerd out on prospecting and helping others get really good at it.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. And when you look at the complexity of what you do, like it's very fascinating, because if I was in the food and beverage business and I was trying to get you off Gatorade to go to Prime or something, like that's a pretty transactional event that can happen.
Yeah.
But if you have petabytes of data ingrained in a tech stack on like AWS, like the relational aspect, trust, and authenticity it takes to build a relationship where someone feels comfortable enough to move on to your platform is a huge deal. So I just think it's amazing what you've accomplished. A $10 million deal. Not a lot of people can say that. And what I like about your approach the most, which I know has impacted so many people you've worked with, is point number 4 there. And it's really the googliness, having fun.
Yes.
Energy beats form a lot of time. And I see that some of the best sellers channel their inner child in a way where like they just have fun and they're energetic. And I know I used to tell CTOs all the time, or there's like one in particular, he had a trip to Miami. And I was like, hey, here are the most Instagrammable walls. Like,
I
knowing
remember
he didn't
you
have
told
an
me
Instagram.
that. I
But it's
love
like,
that.
It's like, have fun.
I
And
love that, dude.
what, yeah, so it's like a lot of things can't be taught. And like for you, one thing that clearly cannot be taught is like your passion. So I don't know if you remember, but when we met in downtown Austin, like I believe it was 3 years ago at a steak dinner.
Of course I remember. I thought this guy, Jay, is special. His presence is something else. This guy's I want him to be a great friend. He's going to do big things. So yes, of course I remember.
But I don't know if you remember this. Within 30 seconds, like somehow we were talking about cold call tonality.
Yeah.
I think we're in line.
Talking like you're
steaks.
talking to your mom or say real calm. Like I loved your tone. Yeah, I remember that.
And we were getting into it, and I just walked away feeling great. And so when I left, like I was thinking about it, I was like, when did the flip switch for you? Like, when did you become obsessed with tech sales? Like, was there like an aha moment that you had that just sparked your obsession?
For all my life, I wanted to understand, like, how do I reach my potential? What makes us happy in life? Like, how do we create a life of meaning and impact? And so I started a YouTube channel that folks might not know about called Pursuit of Possibility. I was doing a lot of videos on like turning problems into opportunities. Like I mentioned, that tapestry line, and things like the power of acknowledgement, like these personal growth, relationship concepts. It was so broad. And I think I got it to like 700 subs. And And so the reality is my heart was to like unlock my own potential and help others do the same. At one point when I mentioned that depression where I got to like, it forced me to like rethink my life, I realized though, if I want to have a bigger impact, like maybe I could focus on tech sales where I have like legitimate, like really good experience. Like I'm not Tony Robbins yet. And people like want to get jobs and it can actually improve their quality of life and open up like an amazing path. Like, why don't I focus more on this? And like, what if tech sales could be my Trojan horse to talking more about personal growth? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, tech sales has been a vehicle to my own personal transformation. It allows us to be the men and women in the arena, to get on the sales court, to fail, to risk, to pick up a phone and cold call strangers and lean outside our comfort zone and apply the mindset and habits of high performance through action to produce amazing fruit like financial freedom, build a great network and relationships, become more influential and impactful, self-aware. I mean, sales has really shined a light on some of my like imperfections, I'll call it, and opportunities to improve. And so it's just been such a catalyst for self-development. And the ultimate way to grow as a person and reach your potential isn't to read about books and keep it all trapped in your head and to, just focus on theory, but to do. So it's like, man, personal transformation through tech sales. And that's how, I really landed on it. And it was the best decision ever to give up the old channel, even though I was emotionally connected to it, to focus on this. It's grown, it's helping people get jobs. And the final thing I'll say is like, the joy that comes from helping someone, as you mentioned, like you were referring to Alex Lee, who got a job at Snowflake when he was having his heart broken at other top companies. He was so close, and I worked with him. We got him over the edge. And he ends up getting promoted to senior SDR in 2 quarters. He's number 6 of 130 in the SDR org at Snowflake in his division. And he's set up for AE, and he's so like on fire. Like that is so meaningful and so much better than closing like the biggest deal, which, it's awesome to close deals for sure. And so that the impact that it can make and the transformation is huge. So that's how I got so maniacally focused and passionate on it.
That is amazing. And you've made such a difference in so many people's lives. And even outside of the YouTube channel, you continually invest in yourself. You've gone to amazing seminars like Landmark, PSP, like some of the top ones in the country where just CEOs, leaders go to gather. And every time you come back, you're just infectious with energy on YouTube and in person. And I mean, heck, you even motivated me to do one. So,
dude, I'm amazed, by the way, like you've ALA, right?
Yeah,
you're on fire. Like it's just, and that's the type of person I want to surround myself with, is someone like you, investing in yourself and trying to reach your potential and lift others up. And I think it's just a lesson, a reminder to the audience, like who you surround yourself with is so important. Like it impacts your bank account, your emotional well-being, and your joy. So it's like, yeah, I love to see that you've been doing ALA.
Yeah, but the energy you have is so infectious. And one thing I want to call out is you are very generous with your time. Like there have been times where I've asked to hang out and like you're just doing free calls with people. And then there's other times people are paying you thousands of dollars to work with you. And it's just crazy to see. And what I'm curious about is we're riding a wave right now in tech sales. Like everyone wants to get in. There's not a standardized curriculum. Like there's all these obstacles. The market's shrinking. It's more competitive. There's AI augmenting outbound. Like there's creative ways to not hire as many people. So like these companies can be very, very competitive. And so if I was to give you like a megaphone and you could talk to everyone looking to land a tech sales job in 2024, even beyond. And this could be advice that comes from the heart. It could be advice people have paid thousands of dollars for. What would you tell people looking to get a tech sales job this year and beyond?
So you're not an aspiring SDR anymore. You're an SDR right now, and you need to pick up the phone, use Apollo, get emails, go on LinkedIn and outbound to companies, and find the key people that are going to be your future teammates, like SDRs and AEs who can refer you and coach you from the inside to help you step outside the traditional application process. Find hiring managers who are the ultimate decision maker on the buying committee to hire you, and send them an email. Tell them, show your thoughtful interest. Maybe flatter them a little bit. Show you did some research on their profile, but most importantly, show them what you're going to bring to the table. What's in it for them? Hey, I'm willing to run through walls to get things done, to work hard, to pick up the phone, to double dial. I'm coachable, and I believe in this product, and I would love it if we could hop on a quick call to talk about the opportunity and getting started in the process. Or, I'd love it if you would point me in the right direction to get started in this process. Honestly, just outbounding and going for it like that and being persistent, hitting 5 to 10 people at a certain company. Again, it could be SDRs and AEs who are your future teammates that can refer you, bump you up the applicant list, the hiring managers that can decide on you, other executive influencers like VPs of sales development. I've had some of those, like Kim Brown, VP of business development on my YouTube channel. And she says, heck, even pick up the phone and cold call a VP. Hey, Kim, this is Chris. I know I'm interrupting your day and calling out of the blue, but I really want to work for you on your SDR team. Do you have 20 seconds for me to tell you 3 reasons why I will be a great fit and a great addition to your team? Right? You could just say why I'd be a great fit. You don't have to say the extra. But the point is, in that moment, that was authentic for me. You don't have to be perfect, by the way. But the fact that you had the guts to call, I bet Kim is going to give you an opportunity. And then you don't have to be perfect. You could be nervous, but number 1, I'm willing to pick up the phone, and this is a testament to that. Number 2, I noticed that you're a leader in the market recognized by Gartner, and I'm really passionate about, let's make up the cybersecurity space. This is where I want to be long term. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to be successful. And I'm coachable and I'm self-aware. In fact, I will coach myself to continually improve. I'm ready to get started. Heck, you could say something like, I already made a 90-day plan of how I'll hit the ground running, and I'd love your feedback. Could you refer me to the recruiter so I get going? Again, that's not perfect, but at the end of the day, picking up the phone and having courage is talk about showing your real world resume. It's cool that you can do that in sales, right? You can't give surgery to someone to apply for it, to be a surgeon. Mm-hmm. I heard someone say that. Shout out to Jay Pollard, who was sitting in this seat as I interviewed him, but it's such a good metaphor. But you can show your real world resume that you are capable of doing the job. And there are people that have nice resumes on paper, but that's just good marketing. You might actually be more capable and have what it takes and be a better seller. And you can show that, even if you didn't have a nice fancy college degree or the experience on paper. So that's what really levels the playing field in tech sales. And one final thought on why networking matters. Alex, who I mentioned that I helped get into Snowflake, he said there's about 800 people applying for SDR roles at Snowflake at any given time. He actually looks back at it just to almost instill a sense of pride and appreciation for the opportunity he has. But that puts in perspective how competitive it is. Kim Brown, the VP of sales that I mentioned ahead on my channel, shout out to Kim, she's amazing. She said the same thing, maybe 600 people apply to open roles. So it's competitive. And Alex also said that on his sales floor of SDRs, only 2 people, including himself, weren't referred in. So if you're not getting referred in or networking, you're setting yourself up behind the competition. So I just really believe in, opening doors through networking, earning the interview. And, of course, a whole different thing is interviewing, which, that is critically important, how you sell yourself there.
Yeah. So many good points. And I don't know, have you ever heard this quote? It always resonates with me. It's exactly what you were talking about, but it's the quote, it's, your actions are so loud, I can't hear you. And it just goes to show, in tech sales, you can literally show your actions by cold calling or outbounding to these people. And so a lot of times it's if you don't just say you're good at something, just show them. And that's something that I think you really touched on that I think a lot of people can take away is don't just point to it on your resume, actually show them. And I've received the feedback when I started my company and I, was having success and everything. It's and I'm sure you've gotten it too. It's oh, well, you worked at Dell, Jay, you had everything handed to you, you had all the marketing, or Chris, you worked at Oracle and Google. And we both got promotions. We both worked hard. And a tough reality that I'm seeing in the market right now is good sellers sell themselves into good opportunities. And that's the type of market we're in right now, is you can create your own luck. by outbounding, having good conversations. And so I really like that you highlight that, because that is the market we're in right now with tech sales. It's very competitive. And so the best sellers will continually sell themselves into the best opportunities. And I just love that you said that.
I have to add a few more things, right?
Yeah,
This is
for
a principle of high performance, is taking responsibility for our life and for our outcomes. And instead of sitting back on our hands and hoping that a recruiter gets back to us, hoping that we get past the AI of an ATS system that could automatically rule us out for really dumb reasons sometimes, or that maybe a recruiter didn't have their lunch and was in a bad mood and they overlook you. Instead of waiting and hoping that you get a shot just by cold applying, you can create an opportunity. And that's actually what cold calling is too, by the way. That's why it's such a powerful skill and why I love the SDR role, is you learn how to pick up a phone and make things happen that would have never otherwise. And that applies to if you want to raise funds to start a company, if you want to like get a book published, or I mean, gosh, there's so many other areas where like being able to pick up a phone and make things happen is huge, right? So I had one other thought on networking. Let's say there's an SDR and AE that you reach out to, or an SDR, and you set up a networking conversation. I might say something like, Jay, I noticed that you've been really successful at Dell, and I'd love to follow in your footsteps. I really want to work at Dell. I already applied. Do you have 15 minutes just to chat real quick about what it takes to be successful, and also to prepare for the interview process I'm about to enter into? Something like that. A little bit of flattery, and for me, it'd be authentic. Like I'd see your profile, I'd admire it. Like you're where I want to be. And so you get a conversation with the SDR that is your future teammate, knowing they can refer you. You jump up the list, and you can actually, by the way, get them paid. I've seen MongoDB gives equity like thousands of dollars. If, say, you're at Mongo and you refer me and I get hired, you get paid equity. Some companies pay $3,000 for referrals. So it's like you have a chance to like help them get paid if you're successful. And also people want to help people and make an impact. And I believe this, like you're giving someone an opportunity to make a difference and make a positive impact. And when you're successful, man, like give them all the credit. It makes them feel great, And so I think just final thing on networking is going into these conversations, just being very intentional. Like, how do I want them to feel? Like, I want them to feel appreciated, their time's respected. I want them to feel, heard. And how do I want to feel? Like, I want to be curious and confident and comfortable. And what questions do I want to ask? I want to learn about what it takes to be successful, the KPIs in the role, what top performers like them do. What's the interview process like? I want to get the answers to the test so that by the time I get into the process, like I know exactly like how success is measured, what the KPIs are, number of meetings set, pipeline. I know interview questions that'll come my way. I even have an idea of the personality style of the hiring manager to mirror and match them. You can get all those answers to the test. So setting intention to gather information, setting intention to, making sure you communicate, even if they're not the hiring manager, what you're bringing to the table, and not overselling yourself, right? You don't have to like prove anything, but that's important. And ultimately, two more things. I'd say always be giving. Like there's a quote by Lao Tzu. I'm going to butcher it, but the point is like the more you give to people, the more abundance that comes back to you. So in every interaction in networking and sales and in life, like how can I contribute to this person? If you reach out to me, it's like I have a YouTube channel. Like you could literally like flatter me on my YouTube video. You could share it. You could like it. And that's partly on you to do research up front to see like, oh, I noticed you got made a book. Like you made a book, you wrote a book. I actually just bought it and I love it. I read the first chapter, like things like that. How can you give to them? And you can discover that in the conversation, and you might shock them at the end. It's like, hey, I gotta be honest. Like I'm so grateful for this time, and I'm curious. I'm not sure what it is, but like, is there anything that I could do to support you in your goals? I think that's important. And finally, you do want to ask for the referral. And ideally, if you really built trust, ask for some feedback on your resume if you haven't already submitted your application, and to be coached through the process. And some people might actually do that. Like Jay, I really enjoy this conversation. You inspired me, and I'm really clear that I want to be here after talking with you. I'm curious, like, do you get a referral bonus if you refer me for the role? I'd love for this to be a win-win. And I'd be flattered and honored if you referred me. And just, again, there's no perfect formula or script. That's just what came out for me there. But yeah, that networking, man, it's so important. And remember, my dad told me and taught me, as I mentioned before, like the power of building personal walking ambassadors and really like being generous with people and building those relationships.
That is so good. There are so many nuggets nested in that response. I feel like I just want to clip them out.
Nested nuggets.
Yeah,
I like that.
Those are good. And yeah, the networking part's not going to go away. Like, reach out to the SDRs, reach out to the AEs. Like I've heard of people who reach out to AEs who've gone through the sales development program and they do a call like you just mentioned. And at the end of the call, they'll even have an aggressive CTA and they're like, hey, like this role is open. Do you know the hiring manager? And like they'll do things like that. And like I actually had this happen to someone before where the AE responded, oh yeah, I went through new hire with them. I'm best friends with the hiring manager. And that's like an instant inroad. So also just understanding the political capital of like who has influence in an organization. You're going for an AE role, maybe a director gives you a referral. Like you never know what's going to happen. So I love that you're mentioning that because that's like a fundamental part of creating warm inroads for yourself.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That is golden right there. Ask if they know the hiring manager. Maybe they literally worked with them and know them super well. Ask, what they're like. When I got promoted from SDR to AE at Oracle, now it's an internal move. I had an interview with Derek Guglielmino, Googs. Shout out to Googs. The guy's a stud. He's moved up now he was a manager at the time. He's like a regional VP or something. And I networked with Kate on his team, and she literally fed me exactly what he looks for and even told me a personal joke, or an inside joke to tell him that I started with, hey, has anyone told you look like a young Leonardo DiCaprio? He was flattered, and it was like, get the answers to the test. So, dude, such a good call out. And also, like, I forgot to mention this, and I think you alluded to it, have the job rec available. Like, you want to know, like, make it easy for the person to refer you. Like, hey, I have the rec, pass it along.
Gosh, there's so much with the interview process. And
dude, we could go on for many podcasts on like networking, interviewing.
Let's do it. Let's do multiple podcasts on this.
Let's do it, man. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
I believe in that mindset, by the way. It's like Jeff Bezos talks about day one. It's like I'm 3 years in on the YouTube journey, and I feel like I am just getting started. Same with the podcast. So
yeah. Well, let's break down the whole process of getting a job. Like I think you can always make the argument that there's like a million pieces to getting a job. It's like resume, cover letter, LinkedIn optimization. Like there's so many things out there. And I do believe that stacked on each other, they create 1% differentiators, and like you can give people an amazing experience. But if you were to get a PhD in just one area of the interview process, which one would you recommend people focus on, and why is that?
I love that question, trying to wrangle me into focus. I'll pick one, but I might riff on a few others. It's like own your core narratives. There are certain narratives, like why do you want to work in tech sales and at our company? What are you going to bring to the table from a sales perspective? Why you for this role? What's your vision? And that could also tie in your like why you want to work at the company. Those are like so foundational, man. So getting really good at telling those stories. First off, when it comes to like why you want to work in tech sales and why at a company, there's different ingredients that I think of, like related to the product, believing the product and the market, being energized and passionate about it. That's important. Looking at the culture and the values, having it be tightly aligned with your own, knowing it's a culture where you're going to thrive and be happy. Maybe you already networked with people on the team, and by the time you get to the hiring manager, like I talked to Stacy and Susie and Adam, and they're amazing. They really reinforce that I want to be here. I want to be surrounded by people like that and working for leaders like yourself. I see the endorsements you're getting on LinkedIn of people whose careers you've shaped. This is where I want to be. And you can feel my passion too. That's underpins all of it. So they need to see the twinkle in your eye in all your responses. So you could look at the product and what gets you excited in the market.
And can I just add one thing to that?
Yeah,
just so people highlight it. what Chris said might have just been the most important part of like how you give an answer is energy always beats form. So like you could have the best written answer and like you could say it in a very monotone way and unexcited. But if you're excited and they can feel it even through Zoom, like your energy is always going to beat the form of what you're actually saying. And so I love that you mentioned that because so many people overlook that. They're like, oh, I'll just come up with a good answer. And it's like, no, it's like you have to be excited about it. Like you have to transfer your energy to them and show them like out of all the roles available, this is the one for me.
I love being interviewed by someone like you who has just crushed in tech sales and knows this space because you could make call outs like that. So please continue to interrupt as appropriate. And just you're asking amazing questions. But yeah, passion in the twinkle in the eye is so important. Kyle Coleman, one of the most viewed video interviews I've had with over 20-something thousand views, he's hired 200 plus SDRs. And he said that. I'm quoting him when I say the twinkle in the eye. He looks for that. When I interviewed at Google, which like obviously is one of my proudest achievements in terms of like how difficult it is to get into Google and just in terms of my experience like doing well in the interview process. Blake Horowitz, one of the hiring managers, actually had to wrangle me in. He's like, Chris, I love what you're saying. I do have some more questions. To your point, the form, you don't have to be perfect. You might be a little rough around the edges. Sometimes I get passionate and I might ramble a little bit, but the passion and intentionality absolutely refreshes and wows them. So that's an example of Google. I wasn't perfect. I had to be wrangled in by Blake. Shout out to Blake Horowitz. He helped me get in the door, but the passion was what mattered. And the answers were good. I prepare with surgical precision. Again, I say refresh them with passion and intentionality. So when we look at why you want to work there, the product, the market, why you're excited about it, the culture and how you align, and ideally you talk to people on the team to validate it. That's really impressive that you did that legwork. How they support you, like at Oracle, for example, they gave great training. At Dell, they give great training. That's cool. You can allude to that. It's a very valid reason. And the more personal, the better, though. If you can tie it into, pulling on their heartstrings and your own, like that is an amazing opportunity. I want to work at Google Cloud because all of my personal growth, it started with a Google search. How do I become more confident? How do I solve certain challenges? How do I get the Google Maps? How do I get where I want to go? Like all of my problems started with a Google search. They were solved by a Google search. And I love how Google is expanding that mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful to the enterprise space, to democratize access to the Legos, the cloud Legos that built Google Cloud as a business, to give that access to companies. That's a mission I can get behind and get passionate about as a seller. And when I come into Google, I know I'm going to be surrounded by ex-Olympians and the best of the best, where I am going to grow just by osmosis. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get a little uncomfortable. I'm going to probably feel insecure and imposter syndrome. But as Sundar Pichai, our CEO, says, that's a good place to be. Notice I just said our CEO. I was already talking as if I had the job, like I'm at the company. I do that, and I encourage it. So I actually... There's a guy that I worked with, John Williams, that had gotten into a company, Karam Health, and they provided software that helped lower the cost of benefits for surgeries for employees. And he tied in how his mom had cancer and how that solution would have actually made her life easier and saved money. Like it was a very, I won't do it justice. I can't repeat his answer, but it was so personal. And imagine they're bringing in someone like him to sell a product that he deeply believes in. You can't do that for everything. Like at Oracle, it's a database, but I love the fact that the world runs on Oracle. I go to Starbucks in New Orleans and the POS system's Oracle, right? So anyways, I could go on and on, but I hope that shed light on some examples of how to frame a very compelling narrative on why you want to work at the company. Because, the worst thing is like when I was at Bestman, and I still am, obviously, my current startup, and a guy comes to me in the interview process, how'd you hear about us? He said, I had my admin fire out some applications and I found you guys. No intentionality. Immediately in that moment, he was ruled out for me. Okay. So that's a foundational narrative. I will say, what will you bring to the table is so important. This is Sales 101. when you call a customer, cold call them and email them, you want to show them like what's in it for them. How are you going to help them solve challenges and bring value, help them achieve their goals? So you want to show that you're going to be a great decision for the hiring manager. What do they look for? Maybe that's helpful to consider. They want someone who's coachable. You can take in feedback and actually make adjustments and improve. In fact, you're self-aware and you coach yourself. You go a step further. You're always looking to improve. But coachability, as you know, at Dell, I'm sure you were asked about that. I was asked that, question at Oracle, tell me at a time you received a piece of feedback and implemented it. That's important to show that. Grit, passion, perseverance, the ability to run through walls and to have the guts to pick up the phone, and make a double dial, where that's where I call you and you don't pick up and I purposely call you back immediately, knowing that you might think, oh, shoot, who is this that wants to talk to me? It's a little uncomfortable, but it's what's needed to create an opportunity, right? Teamwork, your ability to, work with others, because sales is a team sport, just like sports. Collectively on an SDR team or any sales team, you have a quota that rolls up to your manager and up to higher levels. And when you, set meetings, it impacts your AEs, ability to make money and honestly support their family if they have a family, or create a better quality of life. You can directly impact your AE and how they make money, and your boss too, right? Your success rolls into there. So everyone's tied together in it. So being able to show that you can work in a team setting and that you're also the type of person that a hiring manager will bring in, and you will share best practices with your teammates, You'll actually encourage them to be successful. I will say they want to see curiosity, and that partly comes from the questions you ask, right? So I have to throw in, it's not necessarily a narrative. And again, I do believe that's just foundational to work on that piece, those stories of why tech sales, what you'll bring to the table. But it's also important to come in with great questions. The worst thing you can do is show up and have no questions. That's just such a red flag. A lot of sales is asking questions to discover pains and needs that are a reason to have a further conversation. And that's actually critical on a cold call too. It's cold calls that last longer have higher conversion rates. So, you might, have an opener and pique interest and then ask an open-ended question. How are you managing this problem today? Executives we talk to are struggling with these challenges. Which one's more of a priority to you? And you ask questions and find a reason for a further conversation. So curiosity is key. Bring questions to the table. The worst thing you can do is have no questions. The second worst thing is lazy questions. Oh, what's your culture? Are you kidding me? Go on the website and see that they love diversity, and equity, inclusion, and say, I noticed looking on the website that diversity, equity, inclusion is really important. You actually have these programs to intentionally create that, at the organization. What other aspects of the culture really make this a place that you love to work at? I call that a double-edged question. It shows that you did your homework and you look solid, right? Shows your curiosity, and you also collect more relevant information as you sell yourself in the process. Now, I'm almost done here, but I will say I can't help it. I'm so passionate about this stuff.
No, I can feel the passion.
Right.
I can feel it.
You feel the love? I don't know why I did that. Lion King. So other double-edged questions, you want to ask personal questions that get people feeling good. It's going to feel good for you to talk about how you love the culture and oh, what was your path to success? You'll feel good about that, getting people talking personally. But also ask double-edged questions that show you did homework on the business. I noticed the recent product release of XYZ. I'm curious, how is that impacting the day-to-day go-to-market strategy for the sales org? I'll give you an example of a double-edged question I asked in my Google Cloud interviews with Bryce Buffalo in my Googliness interview. Keep in mind, it's cheesy, but it was Googliness, looking for culture fit. And at Google, they say bring your full self to work. So they have a database called Spanner. I remember at Oracle, which is a database company, the Spanner database is very special. It has 5 nines of availability. That's unheard of. It's reliable and never goes down. It's horizontally scalable. It's very interesting technology. It's incredible. And I went to Bryce and I said, hey, have you heard of spirit animals? He's like, yeah. Well, I was thinking about my spirit technology. And I think, my spirit technology probably would be the Spanner database, because my passion is 5 nines of availability. It never goes down. I'm curious, like, what's your Google Cloud Spirit technology? It was so cheesy. It was so cheesy, but that showed I frickin' did my homework, and I knew that it aligned with the Googliness culture. And hey, I was in a pond where I'd like, that's just my style, and it's a culture where I could shine. But that's an example of another question. And closing on, qualities and things to focus on in interviewing, you want to show that you're a closer. Mm-hmm. So, Jay, I really enjoyed this conversation. It reinforced that I want to be here. I really want this opportunity. What more can I do to, earn the opportunity? Like, what are the next steps? Mm-hmm. Just having it. I'm not saying that was perfect, but
like
at least
show your sales acumen.
At least showing that you're closing, like that you're going for a closing role. So just be direct and ask for the next steps, and especially in a final round. But yeah, I'll stop there, brother, because I could go for days.
No, that is so good. And a lot of what I'm hearing is you'll always be delegated to the person you sound like. And so you want to sound like a professional going into it. And one thing that I love that you teach people is even the power of like the questions you ask and bringing a perspective. Like, I know there was someone working for an AWS role, and instead of going into the conversation with like, hey, like, what's AWS's biggest initiative? They came in with the perspective of, hey, I know Bedrock AI is your big initiative for the coming year. What customers do you feel like will have the highest adoption rate and why? And so all of a sudden, like, you're delegating yourself to more of a subject matter expert because you're coming in with a perspective instead of just not having any context. And I love that you teach that to people, because that's how you build credibility. And even that's how you market yourself. Like, when you start speaking in terms that people are comfortable with, they become more comfortable with you.
Yeah, I mean, curiosity may have killed the cat, but it closed the deal on your new tech sales dream job. So, and I have to throw in, man, we know that in addition to your foundational narratives, having great questions, showing curiosity and closing, you're going to get behavioral questions. We alluded to one. Tell me at a time you received a piece of feedback and implemented it. Hiring managers want to see that you possess underlying qualities needed to succeed in the role. Mm-hmm. Another example is like, tell me about a time you set a stretch goal and the obstacles you overcame to achieve it. They want to see your grittiness, right? So you get the point. I've just seen people in competitive like application processes with top companies lose to the competition because a VP said, hey, after the final round, your answer to the question was just a little fluffy. You didn't give like very concrete detail, and it made me question if you actually had the experience. So you got to collect an arsenal of stories and tell them vividly and concretely. Mm-hmm. I will say something I work on is like being succinct. And again, like, if you're passionate, you can sometimes afford to ramble a little bit, and if it's good stuff, but you want to be succinct, but you don't want to skimp out on detail. So.
Mm-hmm. That is so good. And I definitely have a few more questions I want to get through. I think
I'll pick up the pace.
No, the audience is getting a ton of value. Like, let's keep it going. But it's so interesting to say this, like, because, I was in college and then tech sales for 4 years, now running my own company, and to be sitting here now as a 27-year-old with my good friend Chris, you've been in tech sales for almost a decade, like a living, breathing legend, the next generation of really tech sales influencers that's coming up right
10
now.
years.
And I'm so curious, what noticeable shifts have you seen in the market since day one, leaving Georgetown and going to Oracle, all the way till today?
Yeah, I'm the first one is just the shift towards like cloud computing from traditional on-premise operating models. We don't need to get in the weeds, but typically you manage it like infrastructure in a data center in-house in a physical building. You pay people to manage it. But AWS invented the ability to click buttons and access infrastructure and storage over the internet. Salesforce was the first SaaS company, accessing a fully baked application over the internet. And it's just been what we called like a paradigm shift, just like the printing press and the steam engine transformed how we work today and how businesses operate. Cloud computing was just a whole new operating model. And so enterprise companies have shifted trillions of dollars to the cloud. And all of these SaaS companies are constantly being born, like new SaaS companies that you could sell for that are high profit margins, meaning they can pay an arm and a leg, or like a lot of money to sellers, right? I don't know. The arm. I was questioning the arm and the leg metaphor. I'm like, why did I choose that? But so many metaphors, it's just what came out. And so it's an exciting wave, and just the barrier to entry to start a new startup because of cloud is lowered. You'd spin up cloud computing, start a SaaS company, and you can punch above your weight class competing with traditional companies. So the good news is I've just seen that boom, and there's so many SaaS companies and job opportunities and traditional companies like Oracle that have shifted to the cloud. That's exciting. And now with the Gen AI revolution, so like encourage people to consider looking at the latest SaaS companies, looking at key categories like generative AI or AI, cybersecurity. There's all these exciting spaces that have emerged where you can really ride the wave. I will say, speaking of AI has complicated in some ways the application process and can lead to some challenges for people when it comes to cold applying, because it's baked into these applicant tracking systems that might actually rule you out based on an algorithm. Like I was talking with a recruiter that I interviewed in studio here, and she said that she's an insider perspective on ATS systems, and that they'll rule you out if you apply to multiple roles in a company. It actually a lot of times will flag for that. Or if you have a picture, like there's certain things. And so now there's this need to like be mindful of the ATS and that AI baked in that could auto reject you. And even like, I'm not saying I've done this because this is newer, but like have a resume that's more optimized to get past that and based on keywords. And it's not like overly pretty. Although I really believe, and I talk about this in my course, and we share this to kind of give your resume a visual makeover. It's something that we got to think about, right? So it's very interesting. I will say though, most of my opportunities have come through networking and where someone I do know is going to manually look at my resume where I want it to look beautiful. So that's interesting. Gen AI and ChatGPT now has helped sellers have the potential to be more productive, to spit out research on a company and expedite the that research process. Like, oh, what's the latest news with this company? How, what's their business model? Things like that. What's their tech stack? I mean, and don't quite quote me on it because I'm not like the most savvy with it, but you can expedite the research. You could even spit out an example email, like, hey, imagine I did this once. I'm selling AWS to a CIO at a traditional retail company. What are the top? Write an email illustrating some of the benefits of cloud, asking for a meeting. Like you can do that. That's cool. I'm more of a sales sniper and I like to add a personal approach. So I might, it's been hard for me to open up to using this technology and I might add my own special sauce on top. As I alluded to before, I've thrown in special sauce, but it's cool stuff. Let's see what else. Okay, we've got these tools like Outreach and SalesLoft that automate sequences and scale, but I think we have to be very careful not to hide behind sequences and even email, as much as I love email. Cold calling is still king. Some people say it's not, it's dead. But the ability to pick up a phone and talk to a stranger that otherwise would never tell you why they weren't responding and be able to actually challenge their perspective and open up an opportunity, that's game changing. Like sales is talking to people. So I think we have to be careful with the introduction of these outbound like cadence technologies to not hide behind it and get too comfortable. And in fact, earn the automation, like work on the fundamentals of being a sales sniper. So you know what, I could go on and on, but these are some of the key things that I've noticed, and it's such an exciting time to be in tech, and technology is never going away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like you have a good approach. Like you're definitely a sniper. Like I've seen some of your cold emails to like the CEO of Southwest Airlines when they had their outage. Like just like so many good emails that I can't help but just laugh with how creative they are. And I know a lot of people on your YouTube now, they're calling you the cold email king. I think it's like the most appropriate name for yourself because you really are invoking responses from some of the most powerful people at these world-renowned companies, which is just super impressive. And according to a recent YouTube video, apparently some sought-after models as well. So you definitely have a charm to you, and I think that's awesome. I think copywriting is a superpower of yours. And, I'm assuming you've sent like tens, maybe even close to hundreds of thousands of cold emails, a decade into your career. But do you have one cold email you're most proud of?
Yeah, back when I was at Google Cloud, I cold emailed an executive at a marketing analytics software company. And the subject line was Hoya Saxa from Google. Stop right there, quick pause. That was an example of relating like a rock star. I did my research, and to my delight, it turned out he went to Georgetown University, my alma mater. And there's an expression, Hoya Saxa. It means what rocks. Kind of random, but I guess they used to sit on rocks on the campus and for like sports games, and that's kind of superfluous. But the point is, only Hoyas, or Georgetown Hoyas in particular, know of that expression. And from a psychology perspective, group affiliation is very powerful. So like being able to reference a common university, a common cause you care about is powerful. So right there, I was relating like a rock star. So of course he opened that email, Hoya Sachs from Google. I will say I'm fortunate that Google is an incredible brand. So, that helped as well. And what I did is I had researched the executive's business and looked at their site, but particularly their 10K. They're a public company, and public companies need to report to the SEC on their business goals, their risk factors, and the financial state of their business for investors and shareholders. So that's available publicly for any company on the New York Stock Exchange, and they were. So of course I went into their 10K. The risk factors in particular, that section is important. They're the greatest fears of the CFO, and I noticed certain risk factors that Google Cloud could address. Around looking to reduce costs and improve the profitability of their business. Google Cloud tends to be a little more cost effective than other options in the market, to reduce their concentration on AWS and diversify across clouds. It's interesting that stuff was in there, and then maybe there's some others. And so talk about gold to be able to reference how we could help address the greatest fears of the CFO from the risk factors. I also read an article that they were building the Mind Innovation Lab. They're investing in R&D, and they wanted to build these new technologies that Google Cloud was positioned to help with, where Google Cloud's really good at AI. And so, long story short, not only did I say Hoya Sachs from Google, but I referenced the specific risk factors from their 10K. I called it out in the email. I referenced the investments in the I think it was the Mind Innovation Lab, and basically showed and alluded to that we could help address these risk factors, and we could help accelerate innovation, areas where you're investing. And that was an example of channeling my inner hostage negotiator, as I mentioned. And it just was so compelling and hit on his hot button so well that he called me in response. Now, when he called me, I wasn't ready. He called me just like, hey, Chris, I was like, hey, Mark, hey. He's like, why Google Cloud? And that, by the way, is like an objection. You have to be really careful. And here's how I handled it. That is, so anyone can use if put on the spot. Mark, I don't want to do your business or our business a disservice and try and talk your ear off right now off the cuff on why I think we can help without fully understanding your current state in your business. So I'd love to set up some time to dive a little bit deeper so we could really have a productive discussion. Are you free? Blah, blah, blah. And so then I got the meeting that way. But I was proud of it because he called me back in response, first of all. So it was clearly that compelling. And I handled it that way to get the meeting and kind of diffuse that objection, because you don't want to let customers pressure you on the spot. You do need, it's very valid. You need to have a further conversation to tailor to their needs. And we ended up building a relationship and doing a deal. And the example of a greenfield, they run all on AWS. So there's a lot of pride in that. And then I ended up having Mark, when I looked on LinkedIn, I saw he knew another executive I was targeting in the local Seattle market where I was selling into at the time. He wrote an email for me. Talk about the ultimate prospecting hack is you break in and you do the legwork, you build a relationship, close a deal, and then you have executives do the prospecting for you and make warm intros through your network. And he wrote a beautiful email on, there was an insight to learn from this, that the way he framed it to the executive is, the Google Cloud team helped us understand, more about our AWS investments. We actually learned more just by exploring with them about what we do today, and they're really complementing what we do. And the education was free, and it was a good insight into what executives see to be value when they're on the competition. Right. Mm-hmm. So going back to giving and offering ideas and education, that's compelling. So I was proud of that. And you already heard about me being silly with Sur La Table and mentioning, I could double click on that one real quick if we want, but also I know that time's flying. So,
yeah, I mean, totally up to you. I know you have some bougie dinner plans tonight. But,
yeah, of course. But no, let's finish up with the Sur La Table one because I mentioned throwing in special sauce, right? Where I mentioned the class my mom bought me, macaroon making class, and I didn't want to do it, and then ended up sharing macaroons with strangers. And I sent that to the CMO. But what I also need to mention is that the subject line of the CMO was Billy referred me to you. Billy was the CEO. I had corresponded with him and basically got his buy-in to engage with Beth, the CMO. So the ultimate subject line is so-and-so referred me to you, right? If they're not willing, like you cold call someone at the lower levels or mid-level, or in my case, I was at the top, or they respond via email, like you don't need them to make the intro, but you can refer them or reference that, oh, they referred me to you. I did this once with, just quick tangent, but it's relevant. I found a board advisor or investor in a company, a startup they want to talk to. And although he responded to me on LinkedIn and said, I don't make the decisions, but you can reach out to people on the website, like the VP of Eng, I was then able to say XYZ referred me to you and got a response within 10 minutes, something like that. That's a powerful hack. So I had that, Billy referred me to you, coming from the CEO. I mentioned the goofy story. I was silly and threw in special sauce. And then finally, I did research that they had spent millions on Google ads, right? I did research on their business, and I framed an opportunity to help them maximize that investment. There's a concept in marketing called attribution, where you can use data analytics to understand where can I really put my marketing dollars, like Google ad spend, to give me the best bang for my buck and greater ROI. And I frame that value of how we help companies do that. They could make a huge increase on top line revenue. Talk about the ultimate reason that like why customers might buy is if you can drive top line revenue. So I frame value. I channeled my inner hostage negotiator, and I alluded to the fact that we also help companies ask questions about their data and their customers to better understand them. Again, it all tied into top line revenue. It was compelling enough to get the meeting. So that's just one other example of an email that I was proud of, especially because made my mom proud having bought me the macaroon making class. It's a good brand,
Totally, that is so good. And I know a lot of the advice you give people is you are the CEO of your own personal enterprise.
Dude,
and
yes.
I love when you say that, because with the example you gave of the CEO giving an introduction on your behalf, well, he was a CEO, right?
Yeah, well, he was, I think he was the COO to be in integrity. So he was like a general manager COO. So I mean, he was like, he was like practically there. He was an ultimate decision maker. He basically ran one of their business units and was like a COO. Yeah.
But here's what I love about it is if you are the CEO of your own personal enterprise, like you were in that situation, there's 3 A's to good marketing that you should always remember. It's awareness, adoption, and advocacy. And when you make people aware, and you send a great cold email, and then they adopt, they call you and they're interested, and now they're sending emails on your behalf and they're advocating for you. Like that's like when you're running a good personal enterprise. So I want to say that because you've mentioned it a few times, like give in this interview, and like that's just like a fundamental truth to be successful in sales and in life.
Dude, amen. And I have to say the beauty of sales once you're 10 years in, like I am now, and at your stage, as well. You have these personal walking ambassadors, going back to that term, where you were generous, you built relationships that want you to win, and they'll just open doors for you. Like past customers that you go to a new company, they'll take a meeting with you to hear you out, and they actually like want to find a way to, like I have customers who want to try and find a way for me to get paid and get a deal, like because we have such a good relationship. Or they'll make those intros. And so that's the beauty is like, if you can grind today and do the uncomfortable things and make the cold calls now, you put in the work and the sweat equity, eventually you'll get to a point where you never have to make a cold call again.
Got it.
I still think you should cold call though.
Yeah, I still cold call every day.
Respect, dude.
Not really, but just like friends when I need stuff.
So much respect, man, for your journey as an entrepreneur and like cold calling on behalf of yourself too. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah, well, I have 2 more questions for you. The first that I want to ask you as we wrap up is a very fundamental part of why people get into tech sales. They're inherently 2 different skills, SDR and AE. And what I want to ask is like, you had a very accelerated journey. I was fortunate myself. I think it was like 9 or 10 months. You're about the same to get promoted.
Wow. 9 to 10 is amazing.
Yeah.
I was about a year.
I mean, yeah, you're a stud. So no surprise. But yeah, doing it at Oracle, and then I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I might have heard through the grapevines you're working like half days at some point as an AE and just doing amazing.
I got to a great patch. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm curious about is like you carved out an amazing path for yourself, and a lot of people are trying to build that path. You know, it's getting harder to get promoted. A lot of times with startups, maybe AEs aren't closing top line revenue, and it's harder from a financial justification to pull SDRs up to the AE role. And so from your perspective, you know, what are a few tips you would give an SDR to get promoted to an AE?
So you got to hit your numbers, but the reality is relationships come first. Build a strong relationship with your manager. Turn him or her into your champion that vouches for you and wants you to, you know, win and get promoted. And partly that comes down to learning about them and their personality, their communication style, what makes them tick, their kids, and figuring out how you can make them look good, the way you report your data in Salesforce and give them what they need to do their job and report up the chain, like obviously hitting your numbers. You know, so that's foundational, but, you know, building good relationships with your AEs is huge. They're your like greatest advocates as well to go to their AE managers when the time comes and like endorse you. Say, Chris, Jay, they're ready, and I highly endorse them. That'll set you apart from the competition. Like I've seen even at Google Cloud when I moved up to field sales, there was a guy that closed like a $50 million deal that was actually, I honestly think he was a better seller than me. He did better. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I hit my numbers and I did well, but you know, he was even better. But I got the promotion because of the relationships I built, not just with my field sellers, but their boss who I ended up working for. Like, so when it comes to like turning account executives into your champions, like you want to like help them win. If they understand like, where can I bring value? Maybe they want you to get meetings in specific accounts. This is simple, but easier said than done, but like get meetings in those accounts. They might not even be the sexiest accounts, but if they need help there, prove out value, set the meetings, set qualified meetings that convert to revenue and get them paid. I mean, that's amazing that you can give that gift to an AE, you know?
And it's always a good gesture.
Yeah, talk about building trust. And then next thing you know, you're getting ready for promotion. Hey, that deal I sourced, can you walk me through every freaking stage of the deal? You know I sourced it, but I didn't get to see this part of like the demo and some of the obstacles that were faced and the objections and the like framing business value and ROI, the contracting process on the back end, the negotiation. And have them walk you through it and then take notes and own that story as your own and go to the hiring manager who might have a concern that you don't have closing experience and say, I understand, but I sourced these deals for Jim. Jim Mullane is one of my first account executives. He's an amazing mentor. I sourced these deals for Jim and they closed, and he actually walked me through every step, and I can walk you through the deal as if I closed it myself. I'd love to do that. I just want you to show you that I am ready and I know what it takes. That's like just one example. You can also ask your AEs if you can shadow calls further in the sales cycle, but that's predicated on building trust, and that trust is built when you're bringing value. Going to the AE managers, your future boss, that's going to make the decision on promoting you or not early on, and just being like, hey, I really want to know what you look for and what it takes to be successful and hear about your path to success. You get the answers to the test. I mean, we both love that theme, right? Like, what do they look for? What are some of their top objections? And you can start to shape your experience as an SDR knowing that to create like the experience that is going to position you to, you know, win and get promoted. And I have to throw it over to you. You did an amazing job, I think, at Dell to get like a leadership role, right? That you were like one of the youngest people, and didn't you uncover objections like ahead of time?
Yeah, when I was going for I was an AE at the time and I was trying to become a manager. I spent a weekend or two just thinking of all the reasons they wouldn't hire like a 24-year-old with a rugged man bun and just kind of ugly, trying to do my best in tech sales.
Dude, you're a beautiful man. Don't say that.
And I just like wrote down all the reasons why. Like, I clearly would not get the job. Like, I don't have enough experience. Like, I had good AE numbers, but reality was like people way more tenured were going for the role. And what I did is, after listing out all those objections of why they wouldn't hire me, I then went and spoke to leadership, people who were above the hiring committee in like different segments. So, mid-market, acquisition, small business, enterprise. And I learned what it was like to be a manager. I asked very specific questions. I said, hey, what advice or what is the biggest obstacle most first quarter managers face, and what advice would you give them to overcome that? And under each person I met with at Dell Leadership, I created a mini course on what it took to be a manager. And so when I got into the interview and they started hitting me with these objections, I had a whole PowerPoint set up where they're like, well, you don't have enough experience. You've never led. And I had everything dialed. And that's something you can do is just be very intentional and intuitive with all the reasons you're not qualified yet. And to your point, go speak to those people who are going to be hiring you and understand what their apprehensions are. You're not in the hiring process yet. Just figure out their apprehensions. And any good seller, we were saying, sell yourself into a good opportunity. It's you qualify, get the data, and then you can position later.
So that's why I brought it up. You just highlighted how you uncovered objections so you could prepare to address them and diffuse them proactively. And again, just get the answers to the test. What do they look for as well? And you can create an experience and build that character and the results to just tell an amazing story where you're undeniable and they're so confident in you. And, when I got promoted from inside sales to field sales at Google Cloud, not only did I meet with the field sales manager that ended up hiring me, but I figured out when he was in town with my AE or my field rep, because I was an inside AE, and I set very good meetings for him with executives to make him look good and brought direct value not only to his seller, because it could lead to deals that he ultimately benefits from, but getting him set up with meetings. And of course, he was aware that I was the one who set those meetings for him. I directly contributed not just to my AE, but to his boss. And I even built relationships with field solution consultants. So I had in tech sales, you often have technical counterparts. And there's not just the field managers or the AE managers, but the managers of the solution consultants or customer engineers have different names. What if you could build relationships with them where they vouch for you? So it's all tied to people. And the final things I'll wrap up with on getting promoted to AE, and there's so many things, is you got to hit your numbers. And I think that the key is to, just like learning to ride a bike, you don't read about it, you hop on and ride. Pick up the phone and fail forward and always exceed, the expected number of cold calls. Don't just hit them, exceed them. Go above and beyond with activity, and eventually that will turn into quality. That's that you could read all up on cold calling, but it's so different when you're in the fire. So make more calls, join the Dial High Club, as someone once told me that was promoted from SDR to AE at QuickBase, and it'll produce results. Funny. It's the highest converting activity, and there's no excuse, right? And also the best artists steal. I'm a creative guy, but the worst thing to try and do is it's not the worst thing, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel or be so creative with figure out the top SDRs at your company or AEs that were great SDRs and how did they message? How did they organize their time? How did they get promoted? Just the best artists steal.
Copy and
replicate. So, I could go on and on. You could even you could be a thought leader and maybe I crack the code on breaking into green fields. Maybe you do that as an SDR or figure out how to break into a certain industry vertical and you share that knowledge with the team. All of a sudden you're a thought leader, you're contributing to others and your teammates want to see you win. So there's much more, but I'll leave it at that. I know we, time is flying by and we've been going for
It's an awesome podcast. So
dude, it's been so much fun.
I'm enjoying it, and I want to wrap up with Tech Sales Accelerator. And for the audience, you have a very clear option in front of you. So Chris Bussing, when you look at everything he's done, he has spent over a decade in tech sales at some of the most prestigious companies in the world that invest billions of dollars into their sales process annually. I'm assuming billions, everything into sales ops, data collection.
They're just they are the biggest companies with some of the biggest sales organizations in the world.
Yeah, so that for a decade, probably over 50 different sales books that you've read. You have every podcast you've ever done with some of the largest sales leaders like Kyle Van Vuoris, Scott Leese, Chris
Braun.
Orlab, Josh Braun,
Kyle Coleman. Like, dude, it's been in like over
Ian
100
Koniak. The
Brandon
list goes
Fluharty.
on. Yeah, and you've synthesized all of that into a very simple, distilled manner. And so for everyone listening, it's like you do have a choice. Like Chris can link every resource that he studied over the past decade and every interview that he's done, or you can simply click a button and find out about Tech Sales Accelerator. And so, Chris, I want you to talk about your amazing program coming out, Tech Sales Accelerator. I want you to say what makes it so different than anything else on the market, and then any call to action you have for the audience.
Yeah, I'm so excited, Jay. Like, the YouTube channel has been 3 years in the making, and Tech Sales Accelerator has been like, I think a year and 9 months. You've been on this journey with me, and shout out to Elite Tech Sales. I encourage the audience to check out what Jay has built as well. We're both very committed to elevating people on this path, and it's just amazing to see what Jay has built. So why Tech Sales Accelerator, other than my freaking heart being behind it? It does draw from experience, as Jay mentioned, 9 going on 10 years, I'd say 10 years now of experience at Oracle, Google Cloud, and a startup. So not just like backed by the big names where I could lean on the big brands, but being the second founding US seller at my current startup and figuring out how to crack the code to sales development. And the interviews with top thought leaders that have shaped the industry. Like I've had Matt Dixon on, who is the author of the Challenger Sale that shapes the go-to-market strategy of Google Cloud and the most innovative companies, right? So I'm bringing it all together. Like the point is it's credible. It's backed by real world experience. Another thing is it's not about just landing a job. It's about launching a career, not just checking the box to say you broke into tech sales, landing any job where you might end up in a toxic culture, sinking ship, but really launching your career for the long term at a company you love, where you're happy in the culture, you want to show up to work, where you know you're set up to succeed. And really aligning that with your vision for your life. Again, this is about riding tech sales as a wave to a life of freedom and impact. So not just landing any job, but launching a career. Becoming a networking ninja. As you can tell, I'm big on networking. The course has a whole section called Networking Ninja dedicated to teaching you how to fish when it comes to opening doors and getting a seat at the interview table, regardless of your experience. So that's something that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's a reason to look at investing in the course and the education.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and there's maybe 2 or 3 other things, right? There's an operating system for overachievement that I designed that is to help people navigate the emotional cycle of change that happens when you make a transformative change like launching a career. Some people get so excited, they see people getting a job in tech sales in 2 weeks, but the reality is it can take some time. It could take 3 months, and the program's designed to be about a 3-month program. It could take 6 months, but it's not about how long it takes, but ultimately getting there and opening up the life-changing opportunities. So the operating system gives you the mindset, 12-week planning structure, drawing from the book, The 12-Week Year, and the habits to show up as your best self and be resilient on the journey to ultimately be unstoppable and make it happen. Not just in tech sales, but in your broader life, especially as you pursue your entrepreneurial dreams. I get pumped up about this and remember, like, I had a YouTube channel on personal growth, and so there's a heavy personal growth component. I will say that the habits and the mindset and all those things, they draw from neuroscience. They're backed by neuroscience. Some of these habits and these mindsets you might have been exposed to before. And they're backed by some of the leading seminars in the world like Landmark and PSI that I've invested like tens of thousands of dollars to go through and tried to distill some of the concepts so you don't have to spend quite as much. And one other thing is that you can customize Tech Sales Accelerator to meet your needs. It's actually a collection of 8 courses to start to together collectively deliver a complete blueprint to land an SDR role at a company you love and get promoted to AE pretty quickly, ideally within a year, or if you're a beast like Jay, within 9 to 10 months, to join the 6-figure earners club. Because as an AE, you're definitely going to get there. And so it's like different courses. There's 8 courses that you can buy a la carte if you want to dip your toe in the water and just do Rockstar Resume to test it out and see if there's value. You can do that. Or you could bundle it all together, from Rockstar Resume to LinkedIn Legend, to finding the right companies for you, to becoming a networking ninja, to becoming an incredible interviewer, and the SDR Success Blueprint and negotiating your best offer. These are some of the names of the courses. You bring it all together, or you could do a la carte to start. And there's other bundles that are a little leaner. So it gives you the ability to customize. And also, it'll complement anything that you invest in. Like, I encourage you to invest in Elite Tech Sales that Jay has built. It's an incredible program, right? But the thing is, you could use Tech Sales Accelerator as a complement as well. Like, maybe you take a few pieces to build on it, or you invest in course careers. You could use Tech Sales Accelerator to complement. So customize and complement. And again, at the end of the day, this is my passion. It comes from the heart, brother. So I'm so excited.
Oh, I am so excited. And I am ashamed. I think I called the seminar PSP instead of PSI.
Oh, dude,
and
I noticed that.
I was a gamer growing up.
Dude, I used to use the PSP, and I'd love that.
But in all seriousness, everyone, it's been a good podcast.
Dude, it's been awesome. You're such a good host, dude. I'm taking notes.
Yeah, but what I want to tell people about Tech Sales Accelerator specifically is, more often than not, the people that Chris works with, they're all giving their best, which is great. But a really good quote that I know Chris lives by is, a lot of times when you do your best and you're not getting the result, you have to find a way to make your best even better. And Tech Sales Accelerator would be that option and that solution to really give you flexibility and choice to achieve your goals. So seriously, I would buy it. Like, I am buying it.
Here's the thing, man. Like, in your course is incredible too. So I would say the same thing, and I've seen you help so many people. So it's just good to be surrounded by people like you. Like, you influence Tech Sales Accelerator. Yeah. It's incredible. Like, people like Jay, real people who are the real deal doing it. And so, yeah, I like call to action. I welcome you to check out the website and try it out. Like, or if you want to invest in a course, you try one little course, dip your toe in. You could bundle it all together. If you're watching this video, I'm going to throw in a discount link. You'll get a nice, sweet deal. If you're tuning in and you're a subscriber, like, I'm really grateful. And if you're not ready, keep watching the channel, man. I'm going to keep having interviews with amazing guests like Jay. Like, check out the interview I did with him. It was unreal. Like, so much value. We'll have him on again. And I'm going to keep bringing out the value and giving abundantly. And maybe one day, it'll be the right timing for you. But if you want to take it to the next level, get into a top enterprise company, like Alex Lee, shout out to Alex, who got in a snowflake, who's getting his heart broken, and you just need a little competitive advantage and edge, consider the program. So, Jay, thanks so much for interviewing me, man. Like, it's been fun, man.
This is super fun. And we have even some new music coming out, so stay tuned, audience. We have some amazing stuff coming. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't told the audience yet. But
we'll see if it's out by the time this comes out. But I've got, you probably saw, my name's Chris Bussing and Tech Sales is Bussing, my official rap video. Well, there's a 90s rock song called Smile and Dial coming out that I'm super excited for. And I think it's even better.
Yeah, and you have a professional that you work with that you're good friends with.
Our friend.
Yeah, Anthony Esperance of the old rock band Papa Roach.
Dude, I love Papa Roach. Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort. So I'm going to interview him too, by the way, and we'll perform the song in the studio.
Yeah, we're all going to get after it tomorrow at Sprint Club, so let's get after it.
Guys, like, one other final call to action is just, like, push yourself, stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone consistently, because the more you do that, eventually your comfort zone is so big, the whole world sits within it.
Heck yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was an honor to interview you, Chris. This is going to be an amazing course. I'm so excited for everyone who's already on the pre-order list. And yeah, let's keep crushing it. And you keep crushing it too at Bespin. It's been awesome to see all your success and all your entrepreneurial endeavors as well. And I know it's going to keep motivating all the fans you have.
Jay, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure. Let's get going. Let's get growing. Cheers, y'all.